Denial of responsibility. Another kind of life alienating communication is denial of responsibility. Communication is life alienating when it clouds our awareness that we are each responsible for our own thoughts, feelings, and actions. The use of the common expression have to, as in, there are some things you have to do, whether you like it or not, illustrates how personal responsibility for our actions can be obscured in speech. The phrase makes one feel as in you make me feel guilty is another example of how language facilitates denial of personal responsibility for our own feelings and thoughts. Our language obscures awareness of personal responsibility. In her book, Eichmann in Jerusalem, which documents the war crimes trial of Nazi officer Adolf Eichmann, Hannah Arendt quotes Eichmann saying that he and his fellow officers had their own name for the responsibility, denying language they used. They called it Amtsprache, loosely translated into English as office talk or bureaucracies. For example, if asked why they took a certain action, the response would be, I had to. If asked why they had to, the answer would be superior's orders. Company policy, it was the law. We deny responsibility for our actions when we attribute their cause to factors outside ourselves. Vague impersonal forces. I cleaned my room because I had to. A condition, diagnosis, a personal or psychological history. I drink because I'm an alcoholic. The actions of others. I hit my child because he ran into the street. The dictates of authority. I lied to the client because the boss told me to. Group pressure. I started smoking because all my friends did. Institutional policies, rules, and regulations. I have to suspend you for this infraction because it's school policy. Gender roles, social roles, or age roles. I hate going to work, but I do it because I'm a husband and a father. Uncontrollable impulses. I was overcome by my urge to eat the candy bar. Once during a discussion among parents and teachers on the dangers of a language that implies absence of choice, a woman objected angrily. But there are some things you have to do whether you like it or not. And I see nothing wrong with telling my children that there are things that they have to do too. Asked for an example of something she had to do, she retorted, that's easy. When I leave here tonight, I have to go home and cook. I hate cooking. I hate it with a passion. But I have been doing it every day for 20 years, even when I've been as sick as a dog, because it's one of those things you just have to do. I told her I was sad to hear her spending so much of her life doing something she hated, because she felt compelled to. And I just hoped that she might find happier possibilities by learning the language of NVC. I am pleased to report that she was a fast learner. At the end of the workshop, she actually went home and announced to her family that she no longer wanted to cook. The opportunity for some feedback from her family came 3 weeks later when the two sons arrived at a workshop. I was curious to know how they had reacted to their mother's announcement. The elder son sighed. Marshall, I just said to myself, thank God. Seeing my puzzled look, he explained. I thought to myself, maybe finally she won't be complaining at every meal. We can replace language that implies lack of choice with language that acknowledges choice. Another time when I was consulting for a school district, a teacher remarked, I hate giving grades. I don't think they are helpful and they create a lot of anxiety on the part of students. But I have to give grades. It's the district policy. We had just been practicing how to introduce language in the classroom that heightens consciousness of responsibility for one's actions. I suggested that the teacher translate the statement, I have to give grades because it's district policy to, I choose to give grades because I want. She answered without hesitation, I choose to give grades because I want to keep my job, while hastening to add, but I don't like saying it that way. It makes me feel so responsible for what I'm doing. We are dangerous when we are not conscious of our responsibility for how we behave, think, and feel. That's why I want you to do it that way, I replied. I share the sentiments of French novelist and journalist Georges Bernanos when he says, I have thought for a long time now that if someday the increasing efficiency for the technique of destruction finally causes our species to disappear from the earth, it will not be cruelty that will be responsible for our extinction, and still less, of course, the indignation that cruelty awakes, and that reprisals, and vengeance that it brings upon itself. But the docility, the lack of responsibility of the modern man, his base subservient acceptance of every common decree, the horrors that we have seen, the still greater horrors we shall presently see, are not signs that rebels, insubordinate, untamable men are increasing in number throughout the world, but rather that there is a constant increase in the number of obedient, docile men. George Bernanos.